The discovery of gold in California in 1848 set off a rush of Americans to the Golden State to seek their fortunes. Among them were Black Americans with hopes of greater freedom in the far West. But a decade later, a Black exodus from California was triggered with a most unlikely destination. Why did so many Black people abandon their California dream? And what did they find at their journey's end? While Go West was a popular 19th century admonition, the West worked hard to create and maintain its whiteness. Black people were excluded from settling in Oregon. California toyed with similar laws, and while it banned slavery in the state constitution, Democratic politicians controlled the state and sought to make life difficult for Black people. Chief among these were rules limiting schooling to whites only and preventing Black witnesses from testifying in court against whites. As one historian put it, that made it so that the best Black man could not beat the worst white man in a court of law. If California couldn't have slavery, and there were early attempts to establish it there, it could make normal life nearly impossible for Black folks. By the late 1850s, there were some 4,000 Black Americans in California and a thriving community of around 1,000 in San Francisco. Some made money in the gold fields, others as merchants. A Black church, Black-owned newspaper, and a strong civil rights organization had been formed, but the battles for justice were all uphill as federal offices, the courts, and the state government were controlled by anti-Black Democrats. A case that ignited the community was that of a teenaged enslaved man named Archie Lee, who was brought to California by his white enslaver. Lee was afraid his owner would take him back to Mississippi, where they were from. The 1857 Dred Scott Supreme Court decision ruled that fugitive slaves were property that must be returned. Archie Lee asked for his freedom in a free state. A legal battle royale took place. The Black community and white allies threw in to help Archie, but legal decisions went back and forth for months with Lee held in various jails. If a non-fugitive could be enslaved in a free state, what meaning did the slavery ban in the California Constitution have? Finally, a federal magistrate freed Lee, but while the battle for his freedom was won, it underlined the grave problems facing Black Californians. Would they be free tomorrow? Looking for safer haven, the community turned its eyes to the British colony of Vancouver Island, whose governor extended a welcome to Black immigrants. James Douglas, himself of mixed-race ancestry, said that Blacks in Victoria could own businesses, buy property, vote, become citizens, attend school, and escape America's racial bigotry. So in the spring of 1858, hundreds of San Francisco's Black population pulled up stakes for Victoria. Douglas wanted immigrants in part because the Fraser River and Caribou gold rushes in British Columbia were drawing off workers. The colony needed bolstering against intruding gold-seeking white Americans, too. Douglas was alert to losing territory to the Americans, and border tensions were within sight of Victoria in the San Juan Islands. For their part, the Black immigrants were the first and largest influx of non-British immigrants to the colony. They came from all walks of life and were quickly key players in budding Victoria. Some were hired as policemen, and the province's first militia was born, the all-Black Pioneer Rifles. Mifflin Wistar Gibbs, a free Black businessman who had toured rural New York with Frederick Douglass and done well in San Francisco, became the first Black person elected in British Columbia when he was voted onto the Victoria City Council. Gibbs captured the promise Victoria offered. "I cannot describe," he wrote in his memoir, "with what joy we hailed the opportunity to enjoy the liberty under the British Lion denied us beneath the pinions of the American Eagle." Gibbs had been a key player in freeing Archie Lee, and Archie joined the migration. So did the preacher and founder of the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church of San Francisco, J.J. Moore. That church had raised much of the funds for Archie Lee's legal defense, Moore said the immigrants were looking for justice, suffrage, and the right to happy homes. Most of the immigrants settled in and around Victoria, but others moved out to farm, to settle on Salt Spring Island, or to join the hunt for gold in the BC interior. Some became British citizens, but integrating Victoria wasn't easy. While the governor was welcoming, other residents were not, especially a large influx of white Americans who demanded segregation in churches and theaters. The victory for the Union in the Civil War and the end of U.S. slavery signaled a new era for the expatriates. Many returned to the U.S., including Gibbs, who studied law and was the first elected black judge in the U.S. in 1873, and later became U.S. consul to Madagascar. Moore wrote the history of the AME Zion Church, and Archie Lee returned to California, where he died of fever in 1870. The Black Exodus his case helped trigger became an important chapter in U.S. and Canadian history, and the motivation for it was captured in a verse by one of the Black Californians, a poet named Priscilla Stewart.
God bless the Queen's majesty, her scepter and her throne. She looked on us with sympathy and offered us a home. Far better breathe Canadian air, where all are free and well, than live in slavery's atmosphere and wear the chains of hell.
For more on this episode, listen to the Mossback podcast. Just search for Mossback wherever you listen.